Hey everybody, it's Thornside. I am going to talk about, I guess, a track that I started working on yesterday. I learned that, a German electronic musician, composer, Klaus Schulze, died last week. And while I wasn't really an avid follower, I've been listening to a lot of it, a lot of the music that he made, and it's amazing, really good stuff. And I'd like to think that this piece that I made is in some way inspired by listening to that, because I've been listening to it a fair bit. So I'm going to enter it into Omri Cohen's most recent monthly challenge. But I haven't finished it yet, so I was thinking of just going through the process of mastering it a little bit, putting some finishing touches on it, and record the thing so that I can actually post it onto YouTube as well. Okay, so I did the work in Bitwig. Let's make sure all of this is working now. I'll probably edit this down a little bit, maybe. Okay, settings, make sure I'm on the right audio. Yep, okay. So this track started with chords, and I just did the chords manually for the strings here. What did I use I used augmented strings from Arturia, which I really like, and it's just going into a Valhalla Supermassive reverb. And the chords were just whatever my fingers were doing at the time. So I think it's in the key of C. I think it's C major. But I'm not that great with knowing what key things are in. So anybody who wants to correct me, that's fine. And this is what the chords ended up sounding like. Probably because there's so much reverb, it just ends up sounding kind of interesting. What I've done here is I've just changed the morph on augmented strings. So if we look at that for a second, you can see that it's just sort of morphing around on the... I'm using just the patch Arrival, but I tweaked a few of the knobs, and it's morphing back and forth here. Just a standard LFO. It's actually a beat LFO in here. Valhalla Supermassive is being modulated as well, just the mix parameter. And so it's I guess, becoming less reverby and more reverby over time, which I kind of like. All right. Then the next track I put together is actually using Stratus. So this sounds like this. And on this Stratus, I'm just using a tool to increase the gain a little bit. And then I'm using the crystalline reverb with no modulation. Just, I should change this. There's there's a dark mode on here. There, that's better. Love it. Cool. Okay. I like crystalline. I find its power is in the modulation, and here I'm not modulating it, but I do enjoy it. It's good. Mostly fun for modulation, but sometimes you just gotta leave it alone. And then I pulled in some decent sampler. I think this is Winter Voices, and I just added this track to it. Now, I put in all these notes on the keyboard that's beside me. It's just a big old ugly Casio Privia full-size keyboard. Serial number PX555R, but it's got weighted keys. It's a little weird to play, but I've been trying to use that more to just enter notes. I'm not a piano player by any stretch, but you know, I know what chords are. Fiddle with those a little bit. So yeah, you won't hear any amazing melodies from me, but there's a few interesting things going on in here. I used Convology XT, and I put it on, wow, I can't even really tell. It's San Diego Supercomputer Center. I guess a impulse recorded there, which is kind of interesting. Kind of gives the voices a synth quality to them, which I like. And Klaus was definitely into the synth voices. Not even sure he used samplers very much. Very much an electronic musician guy. So might be diverging from the pattern here a little bit, but that's okay. All right, next track was the bass, and I used the ARP 2600 emulation from Arturia for this one. I just liked the way it sounded. And I just put a little distortion on it. It's actually not reverbed at all, which I might actually pull some reverb for it, but maybe it doesn't need it. I don't know. Anyway, this is what it sounds like. Let's play around with a little bit of reverb on it. Maybe I'll pull the dry wet down a little bit for that. I think it sounds a little better with some, just a little tiny bit of reverb there, so we'll see how it fits in the mix after. Okay, so those are the chords. Then I added a bunch of sort of atmospherics, some really strange ones actually. So this Bleeps 1, I think is done by Polarity. It's one of his patches, I believe. I don't know if I can even show the patch info here. Where would I see such things? That's not what I want. I was going to play with that someday just to see if it's any good on screen keyboard. Yeah, that's not it. I don't know how you can see the actual patch information for a patch, but I'll figure that out sometime. I think this one's definitely a Polarity one, if I recall, and it's kind of cool. It sounds like this. It's got some granulization. I made this patch to just add some interest to it, and then I also made this patch called binauralizer, which moves it around in your head a little bit, and then I put another convology on here which is called the Love Library. Sounds like this. It's super subtle. If you're not listening in headphones, you should be. It's just, it sounds like somebody running around with like a glass wind chime or something like that. Sort of otherworldly. It's interesting to me. Okay, the next track here is Bukla Easel. The patch is called Lost Thing, and I don't think I tweaked it at all. It's just the way it was. Has no modulators on there. I granularized it again, and I put it through crystalline reverb, and that sounds like this. It's hardly ever used in the track. It's just, it comes in. It definitely sounds like a lost thing, like a little robot that's stuck somewhere or gone. I like it. It's kind of neat. All right, next track is called. It's from Noises, from Heinbach, and I used this thing called Snow Crisps, which I thought sounded really nice. And that sounds like this, basically. And I just have a more or less sustained note playing that. Probably overusing my granulizer. I'll show you the patch in a sec. This kind of gives you the idea that we're in this open space where something is running around. Not sure what it is. Which is kind of cool, right? Yeah, so the granulizer patch looks like this. It's just supercell. But supercell is being modulated by Oct, and I just fiddle with the knobs and things like that until I get something that sounds decent for the source material. And so I have a couple of them in here, but they all have slightly different settings and modulating different parts of supercell. But that's basically about it. It's effectively a supercell effects patch. And then VCV rack is being used as well for some more effects. I actually put this through the new Wasp filter in a stereo fashion, and that's being modulated by this black to octasource. I find octasource has a bit more control than Oct in that you can get everything to go about the same speed, whereas Oct goes slow at the bottom and faster towards the top. And I just wanted to have some knobs being changed ever so subtly. And what this does is kind of it fools your brain into thinking it's moving around in stereo when it's not really. It's just being filtered. I guess, so it's being filtered differently for each ear, which fools your brain into thinking it's moving around a bit. And then I put it through a plate reverb. Love this thing. I always throw at least a couple of these on here. This plate 140 by Arturia just sounds nice. So that one more time is this. And of course it's different every single time. But yeah, and so all of those things put together, if we play just the atmospherics, which is kind of cool. And then it's going to go in the background for a little bit more. I'll just close these up. Then I created a sequence of 9 solos. And these are one-shots that play the sequence and then stop. So it's not so sort of generative ambient, but basically I have a controller, which of course I can't show you, but the controller is here, and if it was working, I have to unplug it and plug it back in. It gives me access. Actually, I can do this too. Enter group. So if I just enter the group for this, it gives me each of these as 9 separate lights, And then there's this last one here, which is there. This track is Juno 6. It sounds kind of weird and ghostly. I'll just play one of the shorter ones, maybe. So yeah, it'll play and then just stop. That Juno 6 is running the sine wave patch. It's a bit weird. It sounds like Ghostbusters a bit to me, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of, happy but spooky. I don't know. And it just fit for some reason as I was going through. I thought I'd choose that one. Then I'm running it through a Juno 6 chorus from Arturia, and then granularizing it again, which just gives it a little bit of extra movement. And then I threw it through Valhalla Supermassive. So that's that voice. This voice is running Labs. This is called Cello Moods, the patch, and it's got to be the most interesting cello patch that I've ever encountered. I just love it. Just I can't play the cello and I can't play the keyboard, but if you put your fingers down on the keyboard with this patch, something interesting is going to come out, and it's going to be sounding like a human is playing it for the most part. It's really interesting. I just chose the C melancholy mood, and if I think I have to turn on my keyboard. Yeah, it sounds something like this. If it's working. I got nothing. Oh well, I'm not gonna debug this thing right now. I'll just play one of these. Yeah. So I just played some chords, and the chords sounded like this. So I have a Convology XT on here, and I'm modulating the mix. So it's just going to kind of recede into the background and then go into the foreground. This Convology is running Battery Powell, so I guess Powell Street Battery, or maybe it's somewhere in San Francisco, I don't know. And that's running into crystalline reverb as well, so it's sort of dual reverbed, maybe too much, but so if I just press buttons on this thing, yeah. So I love that cello sound. It's got such a full body to it too. It's really well recorded. I'm kind of amazed that it's free, actually. That's kind of an interesting thing. Okay, so the last thing I put in here was this Dan Keene isolation collaboration. Apparently he got 800 contributions or something like that. You can go and find the video on YouTube, but 800 people sent in samples, and then he put them together into sort of something that plays almost melodically. It's really interesting, but it's got all kinds of things that play sometimes. So it's good for randomization, inspiration, that kind of thing. So yeah, so excellent work, Dan Keene from London. Very nice work. I don't know. I just like throwing that on sometimes, just as a background track, because you can hear there's so many different things going on, but they're all sort of musically in the same key, if you know what I mean. Like it just kind of fits. It's really interesting. Yeah. So I haven't done any actual mastering of this. Not really, anyway. So let's just give it a shot. I'm gonna do a really lazy master here. I'm just gonna throw ozone on it, I think. I didn't really find that there was that much that was coming out in the mix too much, like amplification, hot signals. So I'm just going to throw ozone elements on here, and we'll see if I start with one of my presets. And then we'll just give it a play. So I ran through and I had a little session where all I did was press different buttons, and this is what came out on this side here. And so we'll turn that on and turn off the grid or the whatever clip launcher. And so this is the sort of, I don't know, recording of the song that I did when I was fooling around. And I think the only thing I would change here is maybe that. It's a bit too long of a reverb tail on it. And yeah, I'll just choose a section that has a lot of stuff going on, and then see what the master levels are for this. right, I like it. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and we'll just play this through once, and yeah, then I'll call it a stream. So enjoy. And if Klaus is out there anywhere, enjoy. I hope he enjoys it. Who knows? All right.